What's up, guys? This is Lucky, and today is another one of my episodes called What the F America. And usually these episodes on my YouTube channel are marked off for mature and restricted audiences because I use extreme amounts of profanity when I do them. But today I feel the message is somewhat important. So I'm going to try to restrain the profanity so I can leave the video open for other people to hear. First and foremost, this is Pinball Arcade, and the table is Monster Bash. And the goal, Pinball Arcade is a great game. It's free to play on PS4. Download it for free. You can buy tables or sets of tables. They usually range anywhere from like $1 or $2 for a single table, or $5 for like a set of 3. I think this one comes in a set of 3. It is a beautiful, the best pinball simulator game I've ever played. It is a great pickup. Pick it up, and this actually is one of my favorite tables. And the goal of this table is to get all the monsters lit. I think there's 6 monsters. Get them all lit, and you have a freaking Monster Bash little party action, which you will see later on. Get my groove later on. So, that said, we got the formalities out of the way, and let's talk about what I want to talk about. So, what the F America is typically, I talk like current events and type stuff, and there's a lot of stuff that's been going on since my last one. And just a word of warning, if you're liberal, I will probably offend you, and if you're a conservative, I will probably offend you. I'm very middle of the road, and I tend to take a common sense approach, and I don't take the line. I don't agree with everything on the left, and I don't agree with everything on the right. Which tends to mean that I piss everyone off, but and I may lose some subscribers for the things I have to say, but I feel like they're important. So I'm just gonna say them. First and foremost, I guess I'm gonna start with probably my easiest topic, and the one that I have the least to say on. First of all, there's a Cecil the Lion. There was a guy who paid $50,000. He went hunting. He got some guides who were kind of off the books, black market. They lured this particular lion who was a favorite of Zimbabwe population, and actually the subject of an Oxford University study. They lured it off a reservation, and then he proceeded to kill it and cut off its head. This guy is an American dentist from Minnesota and a complete douche. He's a complete freaking douchebag jerkwad, and what he did was unacceptable. First and foremost, he should have known what he was getting into, because most legitimate lion hunts are around 150 grand. But he knew, and he's got a track record, and he's got a felony before, and personally, I hope people string him up by his balls. That's just my personal belief. That being said, there was this huge outrage in America now surrounding big game hunting, and I just want to say something about that real fast, and the fact that people really need to think about what they're talking about. Big game hunting and fishing in general. I know people who are big animal lovers are radically opposed to it, but the proof is that actually hunting and revenues from hunting do more to preserve wildlife and actually save land, conserve land, especially here in the U.S., and it's becoming a big factor in the conservation efforts overseas than any of the money that you people raise. So you guys sit there and you make your Facebook posts and your Twitter posts and you rage and stuff about how dare people go out and shoot lions, but for the most part, this money actually goes and actually preserves land, which is actually ridiculously expensive. And I'm just one thing. I'm going to give you a quote here from a gentleman. Basically, he is a doctor, Dr. Luke Hunter. He is he's a biologist and a huge conservationist. And this is the quote. He says, if American hunters, and he hates hunting, He says, if American hunters, by far the largest market for big game safaris in Africa, can no longer hunt lions and other wildlife will probably lose. As much as you don't like it, until we find alternative mechanisms to generate the hard cash required to protect wilderness in Africa, hunting remains the most convincing model of many wildlife areas. South Africa has actually been successful in that. Hunting and charging for hunting is a way to conserve land, which is extremely expensive. That land could be used for farming. When farmers move in, they kill the animals, they kill the wildlife. Habitat gets destroyed, and the best way to preserve habitat is to charge hunting fees for it. And I'm sorry, that's a fact. So, you know, if you could give up a few animals of a population and charge these guys who, you know, like to go out and start out their big guns or whatever and shoot things, if you can make a ton of money that way and save, you know, 100 more lions, to me, that's a win-win situation. So I ask for people, you know, think, stop reacting emotionally, understand the whole picture, because there's more to it than that. And it's a proven method of saving wildlife. There's many track records where it works. All right, moving on. Here we are yet again. We have this week Samuel DeBose, officer charged with murdering him for a bullshit traffic stop. Sandra Bland in Houston, who was, from what I will call it, beaten. Basically, she hung herself for really unfair treatment for not using her blinker. Here we are again, and you know, I have friends who are cops. I'm not against good police officers that are out there. I wish you guys would speak up. I have good friends who are police officers, and some of them are good guys. But, ladies and gentlemen, this is completely out of control. And I know black people are bearing the brunt of it, but please don't for 1 minute think that you're alone in this matter. White people are suffering too. We have, you know, Dylan Taylor in Utah was wearing his headphones. This kid got shot just because he looked like somebody else, and he died. And it's just ridiculous. We have in America, basically, American police now kill more people in one day than like the Norwegian police have in the last 10 years. It's crazy. There's no accountability unless they get caught on camera. They get away with it. I still can't believe the guy Eric Garner, that his assailants got away with it. You know, they say police officers. I'm calling them assailants because that's what they are. It's just ridiculous, and under no circumstances should you, for a misdemeanor or a minor offense like not using your blinker, should the police have the right to physically threaten you or harm you, regardless of whether you refuse to get out of your car or put out your cigarette. And I know there's this little faction of America that says, if you just do what you're told, then you won't get hurt. Well, you know, that's bullshit, because they shouldn't be harassing you in the first place. That's why we fought the fucking American Revolution in the first place, is because the redcoats fucking harassed people, they pushed people around, they were fucking bullies, and we fucking fought off a fucking army for that, and now here we are. I mean, and I hate to use these words because it sounds, but we are in a police state. I hate to tell you that, people, but we are in a fucking police state, and we've got this situation now that's completely out of fucking control, and we have in America the highest prison population in the planet. That's right. I mean, we have a fraction of the population that China has, yet we have 2.2 million prisoners, and China has 1.6 million prisoners. We have more prisoners than China, China has like 4 or 5 times our population. That's crazy, and they're a communist, totalitarian state. Wake up. This situation is out of fucking control. These people have no accountability, and it's become a business. It's become a business, basically, to oppress people and to charge people for just BS and to generally harass. They don't harass middle class, upper middle class, rich people. They harass poor people, people who can't fight back. people who can't defend themselves, and that is, for the vast majority, tends to be minorities and black people, and it's bullshit. It's bullshit. And you cannot privatize everything, America. I mean, prison populations is a fucking classic example. Sorry to me, I use that word. But prison is, you know, is now a business to have prisons, and they charge the state for every, basically, bed that's filled. And now, because there's this business of filling beds in prisons, we have blown up the prison population through the roof. There is a bogus incentive there. There's no incentive to actually fix the system, to rehabilitate. There's a system in place basically to keep people in prison because it makes someone money, and that's wrong. That should never be a money-making proposition at all, ever. And all our metrics at law enforcement is completely wrong. They don't base their metrics. They don't measure how well a police officer is doing by how crime gets lowered. They measure him on the number of arrests he makes. So he's going to go find those arrests. There's a guy named Michael Wood, former Baltimore police officer. He's out there. You should go look up some of the stuff that he says. He has some amazing things to say about how police really conduct their business and what really goes on and the type of metrics they're up against. And everything we do in that branch, law enforcement and prison, is completely and utterly wrong, including the war on drugs. I'm just saying that. One last thing I really want to say, I want to talk about Confederate flags real fast. First and foremost, I don't own a Confederate flag. I've never owned a Confederate flag. I probably will never own a Confederate flag, although I'm tempted just to get one just to piss people off. I am from the South, always been from the South. And there's no place for in my belief, no place for a Confederate flag on any government building anywhere at any time, should there ever be one. That being said, I was not raised in a racist home. My parents weren't racist. I didn't even know what racism was until I was much older. So for that matter, I had no idea. By the time I learned what the Civil War was and racism was, in junior high, I guess, or 6th grade or whatever, I'd probably already seen the flag, Southern flag, 1,000 times. And to me, I had always asked what that meant, and I was always told that's just the South. And there are, speaking as a Southern person, there are tons of people I know who feel the same way. Who, I mean, to us, the Confederate flag just means the South. There is, because that's how we were raised. Sure, as we get older, you learn the history on it, but that doesn't change your perception of something as how you were raised. And perceptions of symbols, I think, change over time. You know, we're having this conversation, did it always mean slavery? And yeah, it always met slavery to a degree, and it was used in the civil rights movement by Southern people and different people, KKK, to intimidate people, and it is still commonly used, I guess, by racist groups unfairly. But this mentality that it means that to everyone is just not true. Take, for example, the swastika, and I think almost everyone in America would agree that the swastika means Nazism and the killing of Jews. But go back, 300 years ago, or 1,000 years ago, or 500 years ago, or 2,000 years ago. I mean, in Buddhism, it still means like a symbol of good fortune, prosperity. In many cultures, it meant good luck, and it had very positive connotations. And so, to tell a person then, basically, that, oh, you're a Nazi, well, they didn't know, to them, that's how it's what they knew this symbol as, and, in the same way, a lot of us, post 70s, 80s, so on, 90s, who were raised in the South, were not raised racist, and I know there are racists here, there's racists everywhere. To us, it doesn't mean that. I mean, I think when Kid Rock goes out on the stage and he shows the Confederate flag, or you see some country singer or whoever, Leonard Skinner, whoever it may be, and I listen to electronic, so whatever the hell, but I mean, I don't listen to these guys, but if they go out with a Confederate flag, they don't mean any ill will to people, and that's just my thoughts on that matter. They certainly don't mean any harm to people, and it's not meant to be offensive. I mean, for good's sakes, Kid Rock has a mixed child who's half African American, so it's just fucking ridiculous. I'm against basically cultural censorship. It's just wrong. Just look the other way, just let whoever wants to have it, just let them freaking have it, and I'm really sick, or the other thing that really irritates me about that is the second this shooting happened, which is a tragedy, don't get me wrong, and the kid who did this was a douchebag, but the second this happened, this is the first major incident of racism in the South, in a little while until the Sandra Bland incident. Major deal. I mean, there's racism all the time, but there's racism all over the country. But, all of a sudden you'll want to pounce on the Confederate flag, like, oh, it's racism, Baltimore, look at yourself. New York, look at yourself. Eric Garner was killed in your backyard. Chicago, one of the biggest riots in the last 20 or 30 years, racial riots. LA, huge racial riots, 10, 15, 20 years ago. Ferguson is not in the South. Baltimore is not in the South. Cincinnati is not in the South. I mean, stop fucking pointing fingers at other people. Take some accountability for yourselves. Racism is not all Southern white people's fault. I'm sorry, I get a little defensive here, but it's ridiculous. You've had more crap happen in your backyard than we have. You don't know what it's like here. Yeah, I know I'm surrounded, and I meet dickhead racists often, but I meet dickhead racists everywhere, against one race or another. So it's just, most of us are not like that, and to say that flag means that for everybody is just, it's wrong. And I'm tired of this blanket. You're drawing lines when you start picking on that. All you've done is made some people just want to go get it more. People who wouldn't even normally have it. So you haven't helped anybody, and you haven't helped the conversation. And it does need to be taken down off government buildings. I agree, but we need to stop pointing fingers at each other. It's not fixing the problem. So I've said enough. Thank you guys for joining another episode of What the F America. I hope you enjoy the gameplay. It went a little bit over, so I included some additional gameplay of basically pinball, and I hope you enjoy it. This is Lucky signing out. Peace.